Henry Cavill talking yet again about how he wants the Witcher characters and the Witcher Netflix TV show to be more like those from the books. Folks, I'm excited to read this article. I'm going to go over this article here. There's this interview with IGN. Let's just read through this together and then we'll talk about it. So the cast and showrunner of The Witcher have spoken about the future direction of the show's planned 7 seasons and how the original novels will always be the guiding light. Talking to IGN, The Witcher showrunner and executive producer Lauren Hissrich said of the 7-season plan, it would be a straight translation of the books. I think there's just so much material that I don't feel the need to start inventing my own to keep it going. So what she's saying there is that she's not going to need to invent whole new storylines for to continue the show on for more seasons than it needs to be. So they're talking about 7 seasons, and so the plan is, basically, as we're going to go on here, as a book a season. So we really tried to stick to a book a season, she elaborated. So basically, we start off with, basically the 2 short story books are being combined into one, you could say. So obviously we've got The Last Wish, Sword of Destiny. That was kind of season 1. Then that's also kind of bleeding over into season 2 with Blood of Elves. That's season 2. So then season 3 would ideally be Time of Contempt. Baptism of Fire season 4, Tower of the Swallow season 5, Lady of the Lake season 6. I don't know then what they were going to do with season 7 because that doesn't really work out as a book each season. I don't think they would suddenly adapt Season of Storms because that's kind of set before all this. So maybe they're just going to plan to maybe take Tower of the Swallow, Lady of the Lake, and expand it a bit more, because those books do get a little bit bigger, especially Lady of the Lake. It is much bigger than any of the other books. Anyway, we did combine some of the short stories for the first season, and there are just many things in the short stories that we want to continue to return to, because there was just too much good material to tell in just 8 episodes. I agree. So for instance, that's why we did a Grain of Truth at the beginning of this season, and it's our hope to keep peppering those in as we go. Interesting idea. That could work out. To be honest, I mean, a lot of people are probably going to complain. I mean, I've seen a lot of complaints about the show where people are saying, where's all the monsters? Where are all the monsters? Because people who haven't read the books, they don't, or who have just come from the games, they don't actually realize that the Witcher books aren't really about monsters. Other than the first 2 short story books, The Last Wish and Sword of Destiny, the rest of the books don't really have that many monsters in them. There are some monsters there, but the books aren't really about monsters. Geralt spends way more time fighting people than he does monsters. And a big part of that is that in this universe, there aren't actually that many monsters left in the world. In the continent, Witchers have killed off most of the monsters. Being a Witcher is a dying profession. Like, that's a big part of the books. And so people who go in from maybe the games, they don't quite understand that, because they're like, oh, well, there's monsters all over and we're constantly fighting them. So people come in thinking, oh, we're going to see lots of monster killing. But really, if you're sticking to the books, that's not what that's about. But what I'm going to say is that if they maybe pepper in some of these short stories as they go into later seasons, that could be maybe their way of like scratching that little itch and dealing with some of the monster stuff. Because if you go through just the main saga, there aren't really that many monsters involved. Whereas if you maybe bring in these short stories later on, that might be a way to bring other characters maybe along. Like in Grain of Truth, they're adapting it and they're bringing Ciri in, where she doesn't do that in the book. She's not part of that. But maybe that's what they can do. They can change these up a little bit, and that's maybe where they can bring in the monsters. And so here's the part I was really interested in. This is what Henry Cavill said. And so what he says here is, for me, it's all about the books. Really good to hear, said Henry Cavill, who plays Geralt of Rivia. The books are so nuanced, and there's so much complexity to the characters in there that it is ultimately that. As far as the show goes, I just want to make sure that the character in the books are done justice in live action. Yes, Henry, yes, yes. Because I'm always of the mind that if it's not broken, don't try and fix it. And I don't think they're broken. And I absolutely love those books. For me, that's my focus. I feel so happy reading that. I really, like, I've already spoken, I think, in previous videos about how there have been a few things recently where Henry said that his main focus for Geralt in season 2 was to make him more like book Geralt. Because in season 1 of the show, he was very much just, fuck. And, like, you know, cursing and being really gruff and mopey all the time and not really saying much. Whereas in the books, Geralt's really smart. He's very philosophical. He goes on long-winded rants about things and all the rest of it. And yeah, he still is mopey, so that's accurate. But Henry's been talking about how he wants to add this extra layer, this more complexity to this character, because in season 1, all you really see is this buff, grumpy fuck machine That's the only way I can really describe it. That's basically what he is. There's almost no depth to him in season 1, and so Henry had said that his focus in season 2 was to try and bring some of that depth to the character, to be true to the source material. And Henry's made a few comments about this sort of stuff. He's made another comment about the scene at Sodden Hill, where he goes up and he talks to death, and how he pushed that into the show. He improvised the scene, he pushed it in because he wanted to bring the words from Sapkowski's novel. He wanted to bring those words, that scene, into the show. And so that wasn't actually in the script, and so he actually just did it without permission, and it worked, and so it got put in there. And he's spoken about he will go to the writers with his gripes, he'll go to the writers with suggestions, and he'll sit with his script, and he'll edit it in his armchair, and he'll change some of the dialogue around, and he'll do what he can. And honestly, the more I read, I mean, I didn't think Henry was the perfect cast, perfect casting for Geralt. I would have much preferred probably someone like Mads Mikkelsen. I think Henry's a bit too big. But I do think in the end he does do the role a lot of justice. He does very well in the role, and there is no denying this man's passion, no denying his knowledge. And everything I hear him say about the books, everything I hear from him, it raises my opinion of him every single time I hear him speak. Because the guy knows what he's talking about. He's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Going on from there, if there are things that happen after that, then exciting things to explore as well, Cavill continued. Because it's a fantasy world and we don't quite know what happens to Geralt at the end of the books. There's a strong suggestion, but then we also have the games, which happened after the books. And then the games all have different endings as well, so maybe something happens after that. Maybe something has happened before that. I've actually heard that Sapkowski once spoke about writing another book, and whether it was just going to be a solo adventure of Geralt or something else, I do not know. But that could be interesting to explore as well. As far as Hissrich is concerned, any exploration beyond the books would likely come in one of the spin-off shows. I think that one of the beauties of building out a Witcher universe is that you can actually use these spin-offs to do slightly different things than the books did, she said. But to me, that makes it even more important that the Mothership series, we always stick to what Sapkowski intended. To me, I just don't think it's my responsibility to continue those stories when he clearly felt there was a natural ending. You know, I'm getting almost mixed vibes when I hear Lauren say stuff like this, because she says, oh, we need to be faithful to the books. She's saying we need to stick to what Sapkowski intended. We need to do justice. And so I agree with all that, and I love to hear her say that. But then I just get really confused when I then see, for example, season 1 of the show, and they change so much that it doesn't make any sense to change. And so I'm like, well, why did they change that? If you really feel like you want to do what Sapkowski intended, then why are you changing things? Why are you changing some of these characters? Why are you not having Geralt and Ciri meet in Brokilon? Probably the most important part of their entire arc together. That's the foundation part. That's the founding part of it. Without it, the rest is lacking impact. So I don't understand that. Or the changes and the things done to Cahir, Fringilla, Ike, all in season 1. Like, a lot of this stuff, it just doesn't quite sit right with me. Like, has she maybe had a change of heart now going into season 2? But then that doesn't make much sense either, because we know for a fact there have been maybe even bigger changes in season 2. And this isn't me hating on the show, because I actually enjoyed season 1 of the show. As I keep saying in every video, I actually think it was a decent season of television. My issue just comes that I don't think it was a good adaptation of source material. But those are two entirely different things, and if you can separate source material from what you're then watching, I think you can have a good time watching it. But yeah, I feel quite conflicted when I read these statements from Lauren. Anyway, whatever she meant, I am excited for season 2 come Friday. I'm probably going to binge it all that day. I'll probably make a million videos on it as well. If you like this video, leave a thumbs up. I'll leave a link to this article if you want to read it yourself in the description down below. And if you want to see more Witcher videos, hit the subscribe button.